If you have a brand, you have a huge book, you can survive a little bit longer without adapt. It's going to hurt. It's going to be more painful. You should adapt as quickly as possible. But if you have none of those and you're just trying to start from scratch in 3 years, I feel like what you're going to be up against, unless you have a bunch of money to spend or you're some sort of technological wizard, because right now you get basically average guys that are coming into finance, insurance, and real estate. Well, think about too, like as I'm building a team, like I'm still using human capital, but then when I can take that human capital and get them trained to utilize AI to amplify the effect of their job. I know some people would think like, oh, they're just going to let AI do their job. They don't have to do as much. It's not what I see. What I see is the ones that are actually using it, they're just getting 10 times as much done using AI in our business. And so instead of me having to hire more people, I just get this one really good guy who understands the concepts, and then he can go and it's like having like, in my marketing team, like our technical internal marketing team is basically I have a CMO, a creative director, a graphic designer / event coordinator, and a videographer. And we're putting out content at a scale, or putting out content, developing events, hosting things, doing things at a scale that probably would have required 12 to 15 people 5 or 6 years ago, and we're hiring another person right now, but like I would need at least double what I, have for the same thing. So then that's just from the marketing side. The sales side, obviously from lead nurturing and things, me being able to do 27% of our sales in our call center from inbounds right now. 10 years ago, I was doing a lot more inbound, but then marketing caught up. Marketing got more competitive, especially on social. But as marketing got caught up, we used automation to level the playing field. Then people caught up with automation. Now we're using AI to level the playing field. So there's always like this concept of like marketers ruin everything. And so, you guys have heard this.
Lawyers ruin everything.
The lawyers definitely ruin it. Insurance agents ruin everything too. No, but like marketers, if I have a process that's working really well to get in front of people and get their attention, other people are going to figure that out. And then it gets harder and harder and harder to do it that way. And so then I have to leverage the next tool. I always have to be one step ahead. And AI right now, and the thing about AI is it's concept. Automation is kind of a linear concept. This is how you automate. There are different variables of how to use it. But like once if-then logic automation amplified into having AI, now AI can mean it's going to rapidly expand so fast that the things that we'll be doing with it just in a few years, we can't even fathom them right now. Like I can't really explain to you what I'm going to be doing with it in 3 years. In 3 years, we'll be in a different world.
You won't be doing very much.
We won't be doing very much at all. Hopefully, that's when we got to amplify it as fast. Like this is the period, like to make as much money as possible. Because if you're sitting on the sidelines for the next 3 years, you're going to be screwed in 3 years.
Done.
You're going to be screwed. I have agents that get pissed off at me because I tell them like, we're going to enter the period of like coming in as an independent agent and be like, I'm going to get started from scratch. And I hate to say this because, we recruit agents, but like the ones that have no capital, no land grab, no brand, no AI and automation experience to the point that it's our infrastructure built, you have none of that. Like if you have a brand, you have a huge book, you can survive a little bit longer without adapt. It's going to hurt. It's going to be more painful. You should adapt as quickly as possible. But if you have none of those and you're just trying to start from scratch in 3 years, I feel like what you're going to be up against, unless you have a bunch of money to spend or you're some sort of technological wizard, because right now you get basically average guys that are coming into finance, insurance, and real estate. That's not going to be very possible in 3 to 5 years, I don't think. And I tell people this and they're like, oh, there's one guy told me the other day, it's like, this is a capitalist country and there's always going to be room for new people to come in. And I'm like, there is, but what I'm saying is like the insurance industry is already one of a few that you can just pop in and be like, I'm a salesperson. I'm going to build a business.
Right. I'm a professional.
Like, other places you got to go develop a product, You have to develop a product. You have to develop a service component. Landscapers don't just come in. I have to develop. You have to start, and build this actual infrastructural component. And we've kind of got this industry where these people get to make handsome incomes by basically building no real business or value proposition outside of being an individual agent. I've met individual agents making up to $1 million a year by themselves. I don't think that's going to be very possible for them very long. You better have some sort of infrastructure. You better have a brand. You better have something outside of just, now to be fair, the individual agent making $1 million's probably got at least a decent personal brand, but he better start scaling outward, create human capital, create some infrastructure on the internet, some sort of start learning it at least so that you can learn how to leverage it, because the leave behind factor here is huge. it's not like I'm trying to like scare everybody, because the opportunity is also huge, but you got to be utilizing it. And thankfully thankfully you guys are, and thankfully we're telling more people too.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, it's the thing that's like, it's like one of those few things that happen in the history of civilization, right? Like the printing press, or changing from horses to cars. Like, it's that big, and it's going to have that big of an impact. The internet. And it's like the people like your guy that you're saying, right? When the horses were the thing and the car came out, that guy is saying,
oh yeah, right. Like they're going to be able to put a gas station on every corner.
Right. And all the things that they said, and look at it. It's like, there's nobody riding horses around. Well, yeah,
who would sit in a room and watch a box with images on it night long? You know,
who would walk around with a box in their hand?
Nobody's going to stop watching TV to play on their phone all day long, you know. And then here we are. Like, I don't even know why I have a TV sometimes. Like, I'll turn something on it, and then I'll just be working on my phone, you know. Like, I don't even really watch the damn thing. So, but
it was like the Industrial Revolution. There was the computers, personal computer, 80s, right? And then the next big thing was the internet. Took a little while to catch on. So that was like another 20 years before it like really caught on. And then it was like social media was like the next level of, because these are all big leverage pieces, like human leverage.
Like, how can we keep people on the internet all the time? You know, and that's what social media did.
So there was like all these things took human leverage, which was the ultimate leverage, and like multiplied it, right? Like all these things. But like now that there's internet, computers, and now artificial intelligence, dude, I mean, it's so much leverage that if you're not looking in that direction, dude, you're going to be crushed.
And it's not a maybe. Like, this is fact. Like it's fact. Like, you talk to the guy that owns the world now, the dude that from NVIDIA, right? Like, he just said, we have so much capacity for the software, right? So those hardware infrastructure's there, and that'll just keep getting built. You know, they said they're nowhere near Moore's law, like the end of Moore's law. So it's going to keep doubling, right? So
crazy,
insane.
Yeah, that's so. Yeah, I think that there's going to be this division of wealth. It's going to be like kind of like Wall-E, you know?
Yes, the fat people on the spaceship.
I mean, I envision I don't know how long this will take, but this is not an endorsement for me by any means, but I envision a society where the division of wealth gets so great, the people that own everything, who are going to be the people that utilize and harness the tools at the top, it's going to be your top, whatever, 5% of people, right? They're going to be so far away from the bottom that they will pass universal base income eventually. You know, I believe this. There's going to be this entire dependent, pressed little class of people that exist, buying and consuming from this group of people that is living this entirely different life, you know, and they act like the division of wealth now is great. It's just going to get worse and worse because, like you said, 47% of the people don't even know what ChatGPT is.
So far behind. It's
like to not even know what it is. Like, I mean, that doesn't make any sense, but it's like Google, man. I still remember the first time I heard of Google. I was in 7th grade social studies. That's how old Google is. I'm 36, you know, not that I'm old, but I'm 36. I was in 7th grade social studies. We were using web crawler, and Belinda Nanny, my social studies teacher, said, well, you guys should try Google. We had the little computers in the classroom, the white box, you know, the old school. And I remember getting on Google, and she was telling us like, oh, Google means a 1 with 100 zeros. I still remember this, like conceptually where it's at. And there are kids right now that are in school, guarantee you, there's certain teachers who tell them you should look at what ChatGPT is, you know, you look into that, and then they're using, and of course then you get some of the teachers like, oh, you can't use AI to copyright stuff. There's no way around that. Have you seen the apps that kids use to do their math where they take a picture of a complex math scenario and it just does the work?
Yeah.
Seen this? Like, it's like,
man, we got screwed.
I know, dude. Like, I had to learn math,
the quadratic equation.
Yeah, Pythagorean theorems and so, what do they call it? Reflective properties and whatever. I don't even know what any of that stuff really is. I know what the Pythagorean theorem is, but I don't think I've ever had to use it.
Right.
So, you know, not in insurance anyway.
You got to love the school system, giving you tools that you'll never use.
Right. They ought to be sitting there teaching you how to leverage ChatGPT. Of course, teachers, if they knew that, wouldn't be teachers probably.
Well, yeah, then you wouldn't be a good little, slave of the system.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah. I think it was the second Rockefeller, maybe somebody that went to the Department of Education way back in the day and said, you're not making enough people to work in our factories. And so it was like I haven't read like up on this, but I've heard about it before.
I think it was Carnegie.
Maybe it was Andrew Carnegie, and it was like, we need steel mill workers. We need, and you're not creating enough people to do this. So it was like the curriculum had to change to force them into that type of, like, prepare them for that role, And so it's like, do you want your education to be preparing you for a role that you wouldn't choose? But that's what it does, and it really hasn't adapted much at all. So
they started putting the school bells just like the bells at work. Just grooming the Americans
in a nice little row, right?
Yeah,
in a row,
man. Yeah, I mean, it'll be interesting. I mean, our industry, it's kind of funny too, because we're on the Medicare side, and so it's like it'll impact us in some ways slower than other niches or other industries, other age groups, demographics, right? But in other ways, it'll impact negatively. I can see like the scams that are gonna. I mean, because our generation, the generation that we serve, that generation already gets scammed so easily. And now with AI and AI voice and like being able to mirror your relative's voice and all this, we actually have an employee whose sister, and she was like 35 or 40 the other day, somebody hacked her real estate attorney's email, created another email with a 1 after it. So let's call her Joe Schmo real estate broker or whatever. And then they put 1@gmail.com, and then took the emails that she had and started emailing her clients saying, you haven't sent me the down payment yet, or you haven't sent me the check yet. To see what the scammer would get. His sister, the guy that works for me, who's like 35 to 40, saw this and then said, oh my gosh, I'm sorry, let me get it to you. And what is it? And they're like, it's 150,000. And then told her to go to this bank and wire. This relatively young person went and wired this scammer 150 grand.
Oh my gosh.
And think about like the 65 plus community. Like, I mean, especially 70, 75, 80. I mean, they're just getting, and AI is going to amplify that. So we'll see the negative, I think, implications of it before we see it like absolutely decimate the sales size. But it's already, and the other thing too is like contacting prospects is already one of the most difficult things right now, because the threshold for someone to actually answer their phone now is like all-time low by a long shot, right? And so if you're trying to do it like archaically right now, let's say you're not even using automation, you're not even using if-then logic automation to get them to answer the phone.
Using they're turning the
they're just I mean, it's basically like you're just like sending a carrier pigeon to them if you're not using at least automation. But now with AI, like, I mean, because that bot will sit there and communicate with them 24 hours a day and sound like a human. I mean, every now and then, like we were talking before, every now and then it'll say something goofy, but it's getting better and better every day because it's actively building its own algorithm to function. So it's not like I have to go in and change it. It's changing itself as it has issues. I can change certain things to help it along, but it's changing itself.
Dude, I tested our voice one that I built, and I ran 120 leads through it today. We got 2 quoted from the first run. I mean, that's pretty good, right? I don't know how many answered. I didn't get into that part of it, but my office manager just came over. He said, we got 2 out of it so far. And that was after 2 hours. So might be something.